Hello and welcome back to the channel, everybody. Today we're going to be taking a look at the Killing Floor 3 news because there's been a lot of updates about this, and I have been looking forward to Killing Floor 3 because I used to play a whole bunch of Killing Floor 2. That was actually where I really got started once I started doing this full time. So Killing Floor 3 is something that I'm definitely looking forward to. Although we haven't gotten a whole lot of information about it. We've got a little bit of gameplay and we've gotten some more updates. One of these just came out the other day that looks really interesting. The other one I haven't covered either. So let's talk about this and kind of go over what we're looking at here. So first up we have specialists, which a specialist is a combination of a character and a perk archetype such as Foster and Commando or Delvin and Firebug. No clue who Delvin is, but Mr. Foster's making a return, which is awesome. I hope Mrs. Foster does too. Originally, they were planning on doing a character plus the perks that they could be associated with, or a single perk class that they could be associated with, which didn't go over well. People didn't really like that, which I understand. If people just really like the voice lines from, let's say, Mr. Foster, I don't see a reason why they couldn't be playing like Commando or Firebug or Support or Medic or whatever it is. So reverting that is probably a good idea. I still don't know what this means by having a specialization between the character and the class. Maybe each character is going to have their own passive bonus. If so, I hope that they are very minor, because otherwise there's just going to be some characters that dominate over others. We'll have to see, we'll have to wait. This doesn't really mean anything at the moment. Then we have the what's familiar. So we've got perk progression and customization. Each specialist perk has levels and unlocks skills tailored to your playstyle. As you level up, you get new abilities. This is basically the same way it was in Killing Floor 2, where the more you play the character, the more passive bonuses that you get, and the more unlocks you get every 5 levels. It seems like the build system is a little bit different. We'll talk about that once we get down to it. Specialized primary weapons. Every perk's going to have their own specialized primary weapons. Same thing goes with like Killing Floor 1, Killing Floor 2. So Firebug is going to have fire weapons. Commando's probably going to have assault rifles. Support, if there is a support, we don't know all the classes yet. Probably still going to have something like shotguns. However, you're not confined to those choices alone, so that means you can just pick up whatever you'd like. Same thing goes with the other Killing Floor games. Generally, you get more of a bonus for picking the weapon that your class is good with. But if you need to, or if you find weapons just laying on the ground, feel free to pick them up. And some weapons are just really strong by themselves. Some weapons you could take off perk and they were really good. Something like the Kaboom Stick or C4 was always a good option on anybody. Freedom to adapt, which is encourage a mix and match of weapons for different playstyles. That doesn't mean anything. You could already do that in all the other games. Just basically, you get weapon freedom. It seems like the same point that they just made in the last one, but I don't know. Unique grenades. Each class comes with their own grenades. Let's see, similar to Killing Floor 2, grenades are unique to each perk and can't be swapped. Unless you're playing Survivalist, in which case you could. So, once they add Survivalist to this, or Jack of all trades class, whatever it might be, that's probably going to go away and that class can swap between things, ensuring that each perk retains its distinctive playstyle. I don't know if grenades really changed the playstyle that much, because some classes rarely used them. Like, you didn't see support chucking out grenades very often. Sometimes Commando, at least to blow up a flesh pound or something. That was about it. Demos, I mean, was useful because of the instant stun, but most of the time you've seen people blow themselves up with it, so we'll see what kind of grenades we get since we're getting more of a sci-fi setting. They could do a whole lot more. Visual customizations, okay, you can put on different cosmetics and headgear, cool. That's how it was in the other Killing Floor. I don't see why they wouldn't keep that, although I hope that the loot system is not the same as Killing Floor, and I hope that it doesn't apply the same in-game. If anybody was wondering why there's very long load screens, especially when somebody like loads into the game and there's kind of that lag, it's because the game is not optimized well enough and it has to load in that character's whole like outfit customization and everything, not just on the character but like their entire profile of gear that they had. So hopefully that's gone, because that was really annoying. Unique voices and battle chatter, that's okay. You have different characters saying different things. That's kind of what you'd expect. Although you can disable it, that's kind of cool. And then free content updates. There's plans for ongoing free content updates, adding new and existing perks and archetypes through specialization, as well as maps, weapons, features. Yes, this means that there will be more than one Commando. I think Commando was overrated in Killing Floor 2. I mean, it was kind of nice if you had one on the team, but pretty much just one. We'll see what that means in the future, though. But it would be cool. But it'd be cool if Killing Floor 3 did not get the Battle Pass things that Killing Floor 2 did. That was a little bit annoying, although I did like the way DLC weapons were included, even though the prices were too much, in my opinion. The Battle Pass was too much, the weapons themselves were too much. I think they should have been less, although the way they are implemented to where they give it to everybody in the lobby is a cool idea if you're going to do that. But I still don't think that the weapons in the game should be like that. It kind of has this almost pay-to-win feel to it, even though a lot of the weapons were not. A lot of the DLC weapons were actually not as good as just the regular weapons in Killing Floor 2. So that was a bit of a misnomer by certain players. Anybody that had used a lot of the DLC weapons could probably attest that most of them were not like the strongest weapons you could use. There were a couple, like the Frostfang was pretty busted. The MG42 later on was pretty good. I don't know if I'd say it's busted, but it was good. One thing that I think would actually be better than this, or at least a way to change the battle pass over, would simply be to have it only be cosmetics, and have it be that cosmetics could also be applied to teammates. Maybe not give them all the cosmetics, but maybe give them one random one from it or something like that so they could equip it to their weapon as a skin. I think that would be kind of cooler, because then you could at least look at each of the skins or try out the new skins as they come out if you have somebody on your team who is buying them. But yeah, as long as it's not locked behind like actual gameplay of the weapons, I don't really like that. Then we've got what's new in Killing Floor 3. Unique sidearms for every perk. Each perk comes with its own sidearm. Similar to primary weapons, you can choose any sidearm that specializes for... Okay, so that sounds interesting. I don't know if that means that the sidearms are going to be specific to the classes, and I don't know if you can get multiple sidearms, because having something like a sawed-off shotgun as a secondary for like support would be pretty awesome. I would really like to see that, but it'd be cool if everybody could have a sawed-off shotgun, or if you could have multiple things other than just a sawed-off shotgun. We'll have to see what the sidearms actually are when the game comes out. Selectable tools. Perks start out with a tool that fits their specialization. For example, Ram starts out with a multi-tool that can unlock traps, zip lines, and more. Meanwhile, Foster starts out with an ammo bag. However, any specialization can purchase any tool at the trader pod, giving more options on the battlefield. Okay. I think that's fine. I don't really have a problem with that. I mean, having a tool slot would be pretty cool anyway, since before we already had the welder and we had the healing syringe. There is probably going to be some that are just better to take early on, because I can just see Foster with an ammo bag, everybody starting out as Foster, which might not be the best, just because like the first round everybody gets full ammo going into the second round. So, like, that I could just see being really strong. Unlocking traps and zip lines. The zip lines seem interesting. I don't know what the traps are yet. We'll have to wait and see what they all include. Zip lines, I guess, is probably going to be more map dependent than anything. Same goes with traps. I feel like ammo bag or something similar to that is going to be just like a standard choice, especially for any new map that comes out, or if you're new to just playing in general. Because taking something that is overall useful for everybody in every situation is going to trump anything that's very situational. So we'll have to see what that is. We'll also have to see how much the ammo bag like makes sense. Maybe it's a one drop and then it's pretty much just consumed by whoever picks it up, in which case maybe it wouldn't be that great, because it would basically just be like you get one more mag for your weapon and another grenade. Enhanced levels and skills. We've expanded the progress system. Each specialization perk has 30 levels and 30 skill choices, with each skill upgradable 3 times. Okay, that sounds pretty good, because the skill tree in Killing Floor 2 is very limited. It's either left or right, and generally there was like 1 or 2 builds that were like the best builds for every class, depending on what you wanted. Usually it was like you either get your passive bonuses of like more ammo, extra abilities that the class has or whatever, and then you had like the damage ones. Or in the case of like Gunslinger, it was like, okay, you just pick this one build. Having more builds is going to be a lot more fun. It's going to give you a lot more options, and it'll be fun to experiment with. So I think that's a pretty good option. Operational budget system. As you level up, your operational budget increases, giving you the ability to start with a custom modified weapons. Yeah, weapon modification is going to be in this game, which we'll have to see how much that actually matters. I'm hoping that there's at least a decent amount of customization that you can give for the weapons, and I'm hoping that there's going to be a whole lot more choices than just pick one thing. Some of the stuff we've seen so far reminds me a lot of like Payday 2, and like there was a ton of weapon modification in that game, but a lot of the mods just boiled down to pick these options, where it was like you pick the biggest suppressor on almost every class, you make the weapon like as high damage, as lightweight as possible, you put on like quick eject mags because those ones are just the best. So I'm hoping that there's more to it than that. I'm hoping that there's a pro and con to every upgrade, and potentially pros and cons to just not having an upgraded weapon too. Gadgets for each specialization. Each specialist wields a unique gadget, otherwise known as a no crap button, that reflects their personality and roles. This part seemed kind of weird, because we sort of seen this in gameplay and it almost seemed like an ult, which I'm not opposed to having in Killing Floor, but this is going to definitely depend on what they are. If it's a minor bonus, or if it's very unique to each class, even though maybe they might be similar, where it's just like you knock everything away from you or something like that. because that could be kind of annoying Killing Floor 2, where sometimes you do just get surrounded, and in certain cases you're just dead then. If you're playing a certain class, you might be able to survive, but having a oh crap button on everybody, having a panic button, does sound like a decent idea. I'm just hoping that either it's not incredibly overpowered, or if it is overpowered, it has an incredibly long cooldown on it, to where you can't use it like every round, where it's like you can use this every other round, and like it's really strong, but it's a one-time use, or something like that. We're gonna have to see about that though. Our resident engineer has an integrated sonic storm, a retractable twin cannon on his exosuit. This gadget obliterates fodder Zeds and is incredibly powerful against larger Zeds. Yeah, something like this I can see being fine if it has a charge up to it, or if it has a super long cooldown, or both. But if you can spam this thing, then like it's gonna be too strong. Like, unless they just throw a ton of stuff at you in this game. Meanwhile, Devlin is equipped with Wildfire. This gadget emits a devastating ring of fire, incinerating nearby Zeds. This will depend on how big this is, how many things this hits. That could also be really strong. We'll have to wait and see. And then finally, Foster wields the Hellion, a drone that fires brutal acid attacks and creates corrosive explosions. I guess it depends on if the explosions can also hurt you, because that would be kind of funny if they did. It also depends on how strong the drone is, how long it lasts. There's a lot of factors here that might be good, might be bad. We'll have to see. Then we got the skill tree specialization, which this looks way better than what we had in Killing Floor 2. So with 30 levels to unlock the specialization, you get new unlocks every 2 levels. Okay, so you have passive, throwables, gadget. That sounds good. And then you can put 1 to 3 points in each of these. Well, that's going to make it so you have a lot more builds to play around with, which is good. So we're going to have to see what each of these does. I mean, we only have one here as an option that's being shown, which is called Hothead. Destroying an enemy's head with a ballistic weapon has a 20% chance to trigger an explosion, dealing 150 force damage. Okay, that one's going to be good. Pretty much always want to aim for headshots in Killing Floor, so something like that is going to be nice, and I'm assuming this just increases the chance every time that you level it up. That's just going to be a stun or just more AoE damage, so it's going to be especially good on classes that don't have good AoE damage, something like Commando or something like Sharpshooter, assuming that Sharpshooter's in this as well. But we'll have to see about the other ones. I'm assuming some of these are like health. This one looks like reload speed. We've got maybe like longer lasting life or something here. That's probably faster swap speeds. I'm assuming we're going to have kind of all the basic stuff of like more primary damage, more secondary damage, more grenades, specializing your grenade to do something, potentially bonuses against particular Zeds. So we're gonna have to see how that one works. And that's kind of all that we have so far on the class updates. Overall, not sure about the ult button. I don't know if I like that. The keeping stuff from Killing Floor 2 is probably a good idea. Killing Floor 2 did a lot of good things in terms of the gameplay. Unique sidearms is questionable. Selective tools sounds like you might just pick whichever one of the best right away, and the skill tree is definitely the big selling point here out of all of this. I think that one's probably what I'm looking forward to the most out of this. Alright, let's move over to the next one, where we've got a reveal of a new boss and new enemies. So this is what the crawlers are going to look like, which they look absolutely horrifying. I do kind of like it. Overall, the designs in Killing Floor 3 I think are kind of cool, at least in terms of like this. I think the Scrake is pretty cool, at least once he's got his mask on. When he had the mask off, I didn't really like him as much, but that could change when the game actually comes out. And we've seen a couple other ones where it's like all the small Zeds look fine, like the Clots, the Slashers, stuff like that. They don't need to be cool or as epic as some of the other Zeds, in my opinion, because you're going to see so many of them, so they should look a little bit generic. We wanted crawlers to walk on the walls. That was something that was at least in the code, but it never actually got implemented. I think there was actually early trailers of that in Killing Floor 2, if I'm not mistaken, of showing the crawlers being able to crawl on the walls, but that was never implemented. I'm assuming just because it was too difficult, probably because each map is a little bit different, so it just never happened. With Killing Floor 3, we finally solved the problem, but our reimagining of the crawlers didn't end there. We wanted its visual design to lean into horror roots, mixing strange anatomy of a spider and unsettling menace of a movie serial killer. Its pale skin, snarling limbs, crooked row of teeth, and unsettling cluster of eyes is undoubtedly one of the most frightening looking Zeds. Yeah, I would say so. That one's definitely one of the most horrifying ones. I'm hoping you can still like jump on him and Mario stomp him, because that was something fun about him in Killing Floor 2. And once you kind of figured that out, they weren't as scary. They could still kill you really quick, but it did make it a little bit easier if you got body blocked by them. And then we've got the new boss, or one of the new bosses, which is Hail to the Queen. This is the Queen Crawler, and boy does she look creepy. That is probably one of the scariest things I've seen in Killing Floor, and probably just one of the creepiest things I've seen in any game, honestly. I'm rather impressed by the weird fleshy spider creepy thing. It kind of reminds me of the Ratma creature from one of the VHS movies. Kind of reminds me of that, which I don't know if they were inspired by that or if this is its own creation. Then I'm assuming these are the regular crawlers, and I'm thinking that these ones are probably the poison crawlers. Or maybe they're a different crawler entirely. Maybe we won't get the same 3 that we did before, or I guess the same 2 plus this one. Yeah, her reveal in the new video is pretty terrifying too. She looks very intimidating, especially if she's as big as she looks in the video here, because she's taken up like the entire room, and there's not a whole lot of areas. There's not a whole lot of Zeds that really do that in, like, Killing Floor 2. Let's see, the Zed is a result of a rogue Horzine scientist, Emmanuel Morkov's experiment with a genetic substance known as the Mire. More of both those subjects in the future. The Queen is everything terrifying about the crawler, and then some. She's a towering mass of legs and mandibles and claws and teeth jutting out of every surface. Yeah, she's gonna be horrifying, especially if you are not paying attention. You come back to boss wave after going for a bathroom break, you turn around and this thing is staring at you. Yeah, that's gonna be horrifying. Also, I'm assuming, yeah, she could probably lay eggs or something. Battles against the fast-paced boss are nerve-wracking. Whether she's trying to eat you alive or if you limb from limb, the Queen can control the Mire, which allows her to teleport and surprise you with devastation. She can teleport? How quickly can she teleport, and is there any audio? If there's no audio and she can do it fast, that's going to be really annoying and really strong. If there is a decent amount of like audio, like you get a sound of her like teleporting somewhere, that's going to be better. It also said the crawlers can crawl on the walls, so can she also crawl on the walls? During battle, she also lays eggs that hatch into larvae that can quickly overwhelm you. Okay, so grab your flamethrower and grenades. Yep, kill it with fire. You just gotta kill it with fire. That's all you gotta do. Firebug is gonna become invaluable here just for deleting this monstrosity. And that's kind of all that we got here. We don't really have anything else for Killing Floor 3, but I did want to talk about it. The Queen looks terrifying. I think she's probably the best highlight we've seen, and the skill tree is gonna be pretty cool in this too, I think. Being able to actually like build out a class a whole lot more is going to make it a lot more interesting, I think. Tell me your thoughts on these things in Killing Floor 3, especially about the Queen. She is horrifying. Thank you guys so very much for watching this. Hope you guys enjoyed it, and I'll talk to you next time. Bye-bye!